Welcome to Next Man Up, proactive DFS strategies based on inactive NFL players. I'm Mike Davis, the Q&A columnist at fftoday.com, and I'm joined by Matthew Schiff, the survival pool expert who couldn't be with us the last 2 weeks. Matthew, can you catch us up real quickly on how DraftKIngs has been treating you and or any of your most important insights on survival pool strategy as the season winds down?
Well, in DraftKings, there have been those weeks that the stars have just not been aligned properly with our normal players. It's those out-of-the-box wins that have really been doing well. Tyreek Hill has been doing fantastic over the last few weeks. You had him in your rosters. But other players in a combination have been the way that you win this thing. We're trying to find that through this process. With regards to Survivor Pool, I've been fortunate. If you've been following us on fftoday.com, I'm now 12-1 on our number one pick. And I actually was commenting to you earlier that with regards to that pick, that was the 1 week that I decided not to use them in my actual pool, and so I was still active. Unfortunately, however, life gets ahead of me, and I thought I put in all my picks and ended up by the fact that I didn't put my roster pick in or my pick for the Survivor Pool, I basically ended up out of it because of forgetting.
Human error, not a bad pick.
Human error. But I still kept track of my picks, so if I was still in it and our pool is still going, I still have 3 teams that I would be very fortunate to be able to use, and that would be a Minnesota pick that is going to be still in the hunt for the playoffs, a Philadelphia pick that I believe will actually be a viable survivor pick over the last few weeks. And then you actually have a number of other choices, but most likely, you're coming down. I think it was, who did I say it was? Not Green Bay that I had left.
I remember you mentioning Minnesota to me earlier. Philadelphia, did you just mention those?
Yeah, it was Philadelphia, Minnesota, and I was looking at an AFC team that I had left. I do have a Tennessee play if I wanted to. I think that they're a viable pick.
Sure.
Oh, I know exactly what the AFC pick was. It was Oakland.
Oh, yeah, strong team.
I still hadn't used Oakland at this point of the season, and I'm like, yep, they're a viable pick with 3 weeks to go. So, again, in Survivor Pool, if you're still in the hunt, try to figure out what teams you have left, because that may be what makes you get through to the next round. Remember, all you have to do is win. You don't have to win by the point spread.
Right, and Matthew Schiff does a great job on recommendations for Survivor Pool picks. He's been doing it for years, and he contributes to my column that comes out every Thursday at fftoday.com. So be sure and look for that if you're looking for some help with your Survivor Pool picks. But now we are, of course, focused on DraftKings and DFS, and so I want to review how the show went down last week. In last week's installment of Next Man Up, I made my very worst recommendation of the season at QB. Matthew warned me over email against using Paxton Lynch, but he was so cheap, and I wanted so much to be able to afford Bell and David Johnson at running back that I thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And so I worked in a Lynch ticket. That was a terrible choice. Matthew told me it was terrible. He was right. Lynch finished with just over 100 yards passing on the day and no TDs. Horrible quarterback. However, I redeemed myself at running back by featuring Jordan Howard, who came up with 117 yards and 3 TDs at a not very bad price. My featured wideout, Dontrell Inman, came through with a TD. Unfortunately, he finished with only 49 yards on the day, so a bit of a ho-hum performance there. At tight end, I took the bait on Martellus Bennett for the second time of the season, and I was wrong for the second time of the season. Bennett finished with just 4 yards on the day. So the bad news there is that 2 out of 4 of those featured players crapped out. But the good news is that even though Lynch and Bennett were so bad, my tickets featured so many other strong RBs and wideouts that 3 out of 4 of my tickets finished in the money. So it was a pretty strong show other than my featured players. If you ignored my featured players and focused on my other recommendations, you did pretty well. As always, I'll try to do better with this week's recommendations, especially on the featured players. Here's a reminder of the 3 self-evident principles underlying the player selection process at Next Man Up. One, it's better to operate with more information than less, so we go out of our way to let the latest injury news influence our lineups. Two, the backups who fill in for injured stars are often thrust into high-volume situations that aren't reflected in their pricing on DFS sites like DraftKings. And three, for tournament play, plugging in no-name backups who may come out of nowhere is an easy and effective way to achieve differentiation from the crowd. Okay, so for my first ticket, I've featured Odell Beckham at wide receiver. And that doesn't have to do with injuries on the Giants side of the ball, but on the Cowboys side. Safety J.J. Wilcox and cornerback Morris Claiborne will be out for the Cowboys, and they have another safety, Barry Church, and another cornerback, Orlando Scandrick, who are questionable. This looks like a recipe to me for Eli Manning and Odell Beckham to feast. And, of course, the great thing about stacking with Eli Manning with Odell Beckham is that even though Beckham is pricey as usual, Eli Manning's really affordable this week. And so with that introduction out of the way, I now want to get Matthew's thoughts on this ticket, which I've enlarged. I hope it's coming through clearly for you. Eli Manning, just $5,500, not at all a bad price for a quarterback. Odell Beckham, it makes Odell Beckham's price tag of $8,000 a little easier to swallow. Anything else on this ticket jump out at you, Matthew? I'll talk about Jordan Reed, the tight end, on another ticket as he's my featured tight end of the week. But anything else here that you want to comment on?
Well, Detroit's playing at home, and they're indoors. So they're playing against Chicago's defense, which is okay, not great. It hasn't been the monster, the midway they used to be. So I see Golden Tate being a nice, he'll probably get you about 17, 18 points this week, my guess. It's a nice value play against Beckham, who should be about a 25 to 30-point game for you in a Dallas-New York Giant game that should be a high-scoring game. Also, you highlight Jeremy Hill. With Jeremy Hill, you know that Giovanni Bernard is not going to be in. And I believe A.J. Green is out.
That's correct.
So at $5,800, that's a nice play and balanced with a high volume, steady as she goes. There's no other buddy, that it's not running back by committee, Frank Gore. It's a ticket that'll get you there. Not a lot of flash, except for Beckham.
Right. And I like a lot of the cheaper running backs. Last week I was really excited about the pricey running backs. This week I see a lot of affordable running backs that I see that I think have good prospects. I suspect Frank Gore could be quite serviceable, and at $4,800 he obviously makes a lot of things possible on this ticket. I guess you've also got another affordable running back here, Rob Kelly, that I like the way he's ranked on FF Today for the week at that price. And I like the fact that the Philadelphia defense, although ranked highly based on performance earlier in the season, has not been playing well lately. So I have some faith in him. The Falcons defense is a little bit of a questionable play. I'm not sure, except that LA's been such a bad offense. This is in LA. I prefer to take defenses playing at home. They fit my price structure. I could certainly go for a cheaper defense that might have a better prospect, and that might allow me to upgrade Tyrell Williams. Tyrell Williams is the one receiver on this ticket that I'm a little iffy on. I've liked him all season long. He's been very effective for the Chargers. But the thing is, it's difficult for me to get excited about any players on teams that aren't really in the hunt for the postseason. I'd rather have a receiver that could make or break a team's chances at the playoffs. Is there someone you're hotter about than Tyrell Williams this week?
On the wide receiver side, I'm just looking at my stuff that I have here. At $4,200, you might be able to use Pierre Garçon in a game that should be a shootout game.
Right, but I've already got Jordan Reed here. I'm not sure I want to double up on. I like Garçon maybe for another ticket. For this ticket, I'm not so sure.
Okay, so what about Benjamin? Because San Diego does give up the touchdowns to the wide receiver. And Travis Benjamin is a big target going down.
Okay, and I like that just as much as that's for the same reason I like Tyrell Williams. These are receivers who are well poised. They could have good days. They've got the tools. I believe in both Tyrell Williams and Kelvin Benjamin in a vacuum, but I'm trying to get to a receiver who's got something to play for. I've already got Jeremy Hill, so Brandon LaFell isn't grabbing me. And of course, Tyrell Williams could play. I mean, he's playing for his career. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe I was better off just leaving it the way it was. Okay, I'm going to go back so that we can get on to other tickets.
Yeah, I would stay with that. And the defense, you're trying to go with a ticket that's less than $3,100 on the Falcons. I think it's a good value play against the Rams at $3,100. Okay. They're the 30th offense in the league. Got to take advantage of it. That's all I got. I mean, there are other defenses I'd use. The one that I think is the best defense for the week is the Lions. With Matt Barkley under center, they're the best ones, but they're at $3,600. You don't have the extra money.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I've got some questions about other defenses. Maybe that's the thing I want to do is work the Lions in and save some money elsewhere on another ticket. Okay, let's move to my second ticket. My featured player here is Jeremy Hill. You already talked about what made him a strong play on the first ticket. It's the absence of Gio Bernard on Cincinnati's side of the ball. But the other side of the ball, the Cleveland side, that run defense is the worst in the league. How can you pass up Jeremy Hill this week? Much as I was all over Jordan Howard last week, I'm all over Jeremy Hill this week. Okay, and so I went after a cheap quarterback stack here to see what that would let me do. You tried to talk me out of my cheap quarterback stack last week with Paxton Lynch. You were right. Earlier in the season, you tried to talk me out of another quarterback stack featuring Brock Osweiler. Again, you were right. When you try to talk me out of these cheap QB stacks, you have the track record behind you. But here's how I would defend the Colin Kaepernick pick.
Okay.
He was really good until last week. One. What's that?
I said, let's hear that one as I die laughing here. Go ahead.
Okay, so last week he had a horrible game. A lot of people thought it was because it was his first game in the cold, and maybe that's true. I don't know. I don't know how to read what it was. I know he fell apart, and I know he was benched, and Gabbert was brought in for a start. But if you were Chip Kelly, you've got to see at this point that the quarterback who can win you games is Kaepernick, not Gabbert, based on Kaepernick's performance in the month prior to that game where he fell apart last week. He's playing against the Jets team that isn't putting offensive pressure on anybody. So it's not like he's going to melt down in the first quarter based on one mistake. The Jets are a team that you can make a mistake against and recover from that mistake. And he let the cheapness of the stack here lets me put Kaepernick with Vance McDonald, who I think could emerge as the number one receiving threat for the 49ers. Okay, so that's my justification, and it lets me get all these other players. You see, I've got Tyrell Williams again. I've got Jarvis Landry of the Dolphins, absolutely solid receiver, especially with Parker sputtering these days. You see various Green Bay receivers scattered through my tickets. Here I take the chance on Jordy Nelson. And it allows me to put in a top flight flex player like T.Y. Hilton playing at home in the dome against the Texans, who could really force the Colts to score. So the logic on this ticket is if I can cheap out at the QB stack, then I can get a bunch of solid wide receiver plays and pair those with a running back tandem of Forte and Hill that I really believe in. So I'm excited about what it let me do for the ticket, Matthew. But okay, now that I've made my case, why don't you tell me what you would have me do?
Well, I'm looking at Jordy Nelson specifically, and then Jarvis Landry. I mean, Landry is probably going to take some of the excess that Devontae Parker is going to be giving up, because I think, Parker's been injured for quite a while. He's been in, he's been out. He was questionable last week, and he played at the last minute. This week, I think he's now just questionable, correct? Correct me
right.
If I'm wrong. But For Jordy Nelson, I'm thinking that you have a better option, ironically, when I look at my material that I was going through, that you have a better chance with Julian Edelman at $6,800.
Okay. I'm still on your screen. Why don't you say all you have to say about the ticket before we come back to my screen? Okay, so Julian Edelman. I've made a mental note.
Okay, Julian Edelman, specifically with regards to your ticket, is a better fit, I think, than Jordy Nelson. The reason why is with Gronk out, you made a comment specifically about Martellus Bennett. For some reason, he isn't stepping up. Who's getting the targets? It's Edelman.
Okay.
That's points. Every reception is a point. Think about Wes Welker. This is his security blanket this year. Edelman has become that.
Okay. So I'm going to take it back to my screen. Go ahead.
Nelson is one of many. And if you look at the rankings on fftoday.com on my screen, when I'm doing my material, he is ranked number 6 overall in wide receivers this week. Jordy Nelson, not even tier 2. Oh, sorry, end of tier 2 at 17.
Okay, so I'm gonna work in Julian Edelman, although you say he's 6,800. He may not be available in the slate of games that this ticket pertains to.
Which is why that would explain why. Whatever ticket I was using, I think I'm on. What ticket is this? Yeah, I have a Thursday. It's a Thursday to Sunday ticket, Thursday to Monday ticket. That's why.
Okay, but you've sold me. I am happier about Doug Baldwin this week, another 6,800, than I am about Jordy Nelson. I was just sprinkling in Green Bay receivers because I believe in Packers. Go ahead.
Without you realizing it and without us discussing it, you just went from the number 17 receiver by fftoday.com to the number 3.
Okay. Yeah, that's promising. And I do believe in Baldwin this week. I'm featuring a Russell Wilson stack on another ticket. I felt overexposed to – I don't like having Williams on so many tickets. I like Tyrell Williams, just so that we're clear. I like him, and I think he could do well. But I hate being overexposed to a receiver whose team really isn't in a position to advance.
You should be looking at, in the only player that's probably going to be highlighted in the Cleveland side of the Cleveland-Cincinnati game is Pryor.
Sure. That leaves me 200 and would allow me to upgrade at defense. I have the 49ers here against a not very intimidating Jets offense. But before I tinker with that, Matthew, do you want to talk me out of the Colin Kaepernick, Vance McDonald stack here, which is an $8,800 stack? That's a pretty cheap stack of a quarterback and tight end. So before I do more tinkering, are you convinced that Kaepernick has no real shot against the Jets? And before you answer, look at the FF Today rankings, man. Look at where FF Today puts Colin Kaepernick this week. Just a hair out of that tier 1.
And see, with that, I take that with a grain of salt. I actually put Winston ahead of Kaepernick this week.
Okay.
I would put Winston ahead of Kaepernick.
Sure. I love Winston. I have him on another ticket. The thing is, he's $900 more, and if I stacked him, I'd want to stack him with Cameron Brate, who's more expensive than Vance McDonald.
It's definitely a more expensive stack. There is no doubt.
Yeah, okay.
So based upon your logic, the rest of your ticket should save your horrible stack.
All right, that's cool. We'll move on to my third stack. Okay, so you were just mentioning Jameis Winston. He features, and he's part of my stack in this third ticket. The featured player for this ticket is Jordan Reed. He's a little more affordable than usual because he missed last week. Still a very pricey tight end at 5,900. But after the terrible taste, I need to get the terrible taste of Martellus Bennett out of my mouth. And I feel like Jordan Reed is the tight end to do it for me. So I wanted to build one ticket around him. I stacked Jameis Winston with Mike Evans in this ticket. I'll have Cameron Brate in my next ticket. And I took I had to cheap out a little bit at running back. I don't have Jeremy Hill on this one. It's the first ticket without Jeremy Hill on it. I went super cheap at running back with both Frank Gore and Carlos Hyde. I think they're both poised to do just fine this week. I think you're spending just over $9K between the two of them. I think you could absolutely achieve value there. It lets me get Mike Evans in at wide receiver, Jarvis Landry, another receiver that I'm excited about, a pricey tight end in Jordan Reed, and then look at my flex. Wow, I've squeezed in Emmanuel Sanders, who I think is underpriced at 5,700 this week. And of course, I get to put in the Redskins defense against the Philadelphia team that seems to have lost its way offensively. And instead of tripling down on Tyrell Williams, I've gone the other way in San Diego here with Dontrell Inman, who is quite affordable at 4,800. Okay, so that's the overview on the ticket. Matthew, I'm going to switch over to your screen while you make your comments on what you might do differently.
Well, one of the things I was looking at, and I've been talking about with you a little bit, is I have a pick here with Lamar Miller. And Lamar Miller being at the $5,100 price range, which is not much more than what you have in the way of your running backs.
Okay.
Is having a game this week, and I have him in one of my tickets. And I'm looking at your ticket. I'm going, let's look for the value guy, the guy who has performed in the past and for some reason is now a value pick on a week when the last time he played this team, it was $6,600 to take him against Indianapolis, and he gave up 30. He got 35.8 points.
That's a monster game, no doubt about it.
Monster game. They're playing the same team.
Yeah, and there have been more concerns about his injuries, but he appears likely to play. He's obviously been down the last couple of weeks. But
that's the only other value play here that I see. I like the play of Mike Evans for 8,900. What happens is sometimes when we take players like that, we end up having to take a Dontrell Inman and hope they're going to hit the home run that week. When you see one of the tickets, you're going to see exactly what happened, exactly in the same type of scenario. But that's when gold happens, by the way.
Okay. I'm coming back to my screen, Matthew.
Yes.
Okay. What I want to do is I want to take your advice. I'm gonna dump either Gore or Hyde, and then go cheaper some. I'm gonna dump Inman for one because he's a flyer, and then who does FF today have higher this week? Gore or Hyde? I presume it's Hyde. Let me check. Hyde is ranked 9th by FF today. That's great. That's for running backs to be ranked 9th and to cost only 4,900. I'm excited about him. Gore is ranked much lower, 18th. So I have to get rid of Gore, and then I put in, at your recommendation, Lamar Miller. It's 5,100, right? That's going to give me a balance of 4,500 for my last receiver. Do we like – what do you think about Anquan Bolden? Well, I'm not excited about Will Fuller. Corey Coleman's a flyer. Oh, you liked Pierre Garçon. I said I'd work him in. He's in. There, Pierre Garçon, just 4,200. Leaves me 300 left over. I could upgrade any number of other places now, potentially defense. What are your thoughts here, Matthew? Matthew, are you still with us? Okay, folks, we are live. I'm going to try to get Matthew back in.
I am back on. You there, Mike?
Yeah, I am. Lost you there for a minute.
I have no idea what just happened.
Okay, well, I don't know how much of it, what I just did, you missed. I worked in Lamar Miller, and I have now a $300 balance left, so I could upgrade my Redskin play at defense, and I just wanted to see what that would let me do. It would take me up to, I could get the Seahawks. I'm not excited about them versus the Packers at home. I could also get the Eagles. Not especially excited about them against Washington. Also not confident about the Panthers. Maybe, I took Tyrell Williams out of another ticket. I took Dontrell Inman out of this ticket. So maybe betting on the Panthers to perform well against San Diego. At least the Panthers are at home, and they do get Luke Kuechly back this week. What do you think about the Panthers? You consider them an upgrade over Washington?
I think the Eagles will make some mistakes, unfortunately. And if I'm looking at the Panthers, I know San Diego, you can guarantee that they're definitely going to get more than 300 yards on them. They're probably going to get at least 20 points. The question is, will Carolina be able to get a punt return or a kickoff return against San Diego?
You're happy with the Redskins. I hear you, man. I'm not excited about the Panthers.
Should you take advantage of the $200? Is it that much more of a play? I don't think it is, but it's really of a toss of a coin. It really is a toss of a coin.
Well, I'm going to check real quickly what I could do by upgrading a receiver, because I have Jarvis Landry on at least one other ticket, maybe two. I don't want to be overexposed on Landry.
Okay. I'm going to tell you where to go then. The problem is it puts you in a quad play, and I don't like that. I actually think he's a better play, and then you switch your Pierre Garçon move. Put Crowder in, move Garçon out, and then upgrade your Garçon play.
Okay.
That moves you to a $4,500 range where you can get Will Fuller in that game.
Let me see. I'm not excited about Fuller this week, but let me see where.
What about Coleman? Where's Coleman?
Yeah, I just don't like number two wideouts. When I'm taking a flyer, I like it to be a sort of mix of wideouts so that you don't like it, like in New Orleans or Green Bay, where there's not a clear number one wideout. You take a chance and maybe you get lucky that week. But with Fuller, yeah. Let me see.
Okay, so who else do we have? Oh, well, wait a second. There's one, 4,100. Which you
Travis Benjamin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Which gives me 400. Now, what would that let me do at defense? What would 3,100 get me?
That gets you the Falcons.
Okay, how much more confident? I already have them on one ticket. What's that?
Or the Jets, which is betting against your other ticket, however.
Which is okay. I think it's great to bet against tickets. Don't split within the same ticket. The point of playing tournaments is not for all of your tournament tickets to win. It's for one of your tournament tickets to come through in huge fashion. So I don't mind betting against that ticket, but I want to see defensively where FF today would have. Boy, they have the Falcons second. I don't want to be. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't afford the Falcons. Yeah, I can. Okay, there we are. Submit lineup. Okay.
In spite of technical difficulty, we made this ticket work.
Yes, we had a bit of a hang up there. Sorry, audience. We're learning our way through this technology this season.
Actually, it was a script error, ironically, inside of the browser. While we were going along, it came along and said, "Do you want to keep running the script?" I said yes, and then it said, "You're done. We can't go any further." So I had to close the whole thing out and restart it again.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so this takes us to my final ticket before we get to your tickets. My featured player here is my quarterback, Russell Wilson. I've stacked him with Doug Baldwin. I love Wilson this week because of his opponent, the Green Bay defense. They're missing one defensive lineman and two linebackers this week, with two more linebackers and two secondary players listed as questionable. With all those question marks, no one can predict whether the Green Bay will struggle more against the run or the pass, but a dual threat QB like Wilson will find a way to exploit them either way. That's the logic behind Wilson. I love him this week. So does FF today. I've stacked him with Baldwin, and I got in some running backs that I like. I like Carlos Hyde, who I think we've covered is ranked 9th by FF Today this week, and a pricey Matt Forte. Now, I'm not sure that I like Forte better than Jeremy Hill. He costs a lot more than Jeremy Hill. I think Forte will be great this week. And the reason I've gone with him is to sort of distribute my risk. But Matthew, you would not have trouble convincing me to swap Forte for Hill to save money to upgrade elsewhere on this ticket. I put that to you in advance. Before we cover the receivers here, look at this. Not only do I love Baldwin with Wilson, but I've also got Mike Evans and Willie Snead. Maybe I'd rather have Odell Beckham. I don't know that he's available on this ticket. I think this is an afternoon slate game. Let me see who my top receivers are on this. Yeah, it looks like there is no Odell Beckham option for me, so that's why I don't have Beckham here. You can see the way I've worked it out even lands me with Tevin Coleman, who's a totally sound flex play this week. And you talked about the Jets in our last ticket. Yes, they are tempting. The only reason I didn't want to use them is because I already had them on this ticket. All right, so with all that said, Matthew, I'm going to try to take it over to your screen so that you can walk me through what you would do, especially if it involves swapping out Matt Forte for Jeremy Hill and upgrading various receivers from that. Take it away, Matthew.
Well, if I was to look at Forte, and I go back to my tickets here that I have, I mean, I took Devontae Freeman in a ticket that started on Thursday night. I think Atlanta is a great play against the Los Angeles Rams. So everything with regards to your ticket seems to make sense there. I happen to play with Jeremy Hill and Lamar Miller on a ticket, which in my case, I was putting together some of the stuff that you've been talking about. This last ticket was some of the conversation that we have offline before we have this discussion online. And I've been able to put together a ticket, and it lets me to go through. I happen to think your ticket is ideal for what you're doing. But if you're to add Jeremy Hill, you'll be able to upgrade in those other areas that you were talking about, specifically upgrading in the wide receiver area where you can get maybe a Sammy Watkins or an Emmanuel Sanders, who you were talking about. We already talked about the fact that Amari Cooper basically shot himself in the foot and he had a chance to win the game. Jamison Crowder, if you want to add in, we've been highlighting the Washington games as well. We think that Washington will have a nice game against Philadelphia.
Okay, those are good thoughts, but we've already gone over time and we haven't had a chance to look at your tickets. So what I'm going to do is I'll tinker with that ticket of mine off air. I think you need to re-enable screen sharing on your end and take us through your tickets.
Okay.
So that we can quickly show viewers what you have in mind for this week.
Not a problem. I thought I was doing that as I was going through, but I guess that didn't re-enable when I came back. Okay, so I've actually walked you through some stuff that I had here. Now, the idea is I have two tickets. The first one, I like to play the Thursday night games. Unfortunately, I didn't take anybody in the Thursday night games because based upon the ticket that I had put together, and I still have the ability to modify this ticket, which is one of the things I like about a Thursday night starter that goes all the way through to Monday. Because when I come on here, I can sit down and say, hey, guys, let's look at my ticket here. I did the same thing you were talking about, except I did a combo that cost me $13,000 between Manning and Beckham. Because of that, I had to go with very, very inexpensive wide receivers. Taylor Gabriel, who, by all accounts right now, is the number 2 wide receiver there. I mean, he's stepping it up. He's doing about 18, 14, 26. This is the type of wide receiver that you want to have step up for the value that you're going to get at $4,200, $4,300. Pierre Garçon, I plugged him in. Another reason at $4,200 because I wanted to use David Johnson. And I also knew that Devontae Freeman against LA would be a great play. So I did a double play in Atlanta, a double play in Dallas, and then I said, okay, for value, Jason Witten was sitting at $3,100, and I just know he eats the Giants for lunch.
I'm convinced.
Comments on that ticket?
No, I don't. I love that you can get David Johnson in along with an Eli Manning, Odell Beckham stack. I think that's fantastic. And you covered why the other players are good. I even think Jason Witten is a sneaky good play at tight end. I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit – if I were going to change one thing, it would be to either dump Deshaun Jackson or Pierre Garçon. I understand double dipping, and Kirk Cousins is slated by FF Today to be the number one quarterback on the week. Those passes have to go somewhere. It would be surprising to me if the two beneficiaries of Cousins' productivity this week were both receivers. I would expect it to be Reed plus one of them, not two receivers, but maybe.
Okay, so Reed is the play better, and I'm going to go to the games. I'm going to look at specifically going into here.
And I do like the Lions defense, by the way. I mean, I love a lot of things about this ticket.
So I've got Jamison Crowder at $5,600. Is there a way that I could play moving up $400 on from Jackson to Crowder? Does that make sense? I think Jackson's going to want to play big, especially in Philadelphia.
Oh, no, I don't have so here's the thing. If I were managing this ticket, I would keep the Jackson pick, but I would want to shed the Garçon pick.
Okay, well,
I wouldn't want to bet on both of them.
Well, let's see what we can find in the way of wide receivers at $4,200 that make a lot of sense. Well, sitting right there. We've been talking about Benjamin all day.
Sure. And let me check where he is on the FF Today ranks as you continue.
And I go right in. You want me to go into that? We're right at it. So where are we with Benjamin? San Diego, Tyrell Williams is right here. San Diego coming down.
FF Today has him ranked 48th.
Versus Garçon at 30.
Yeah, and so again, my problem isn't Garçon as a play. It's Garçon stacked with Jackson. And I like Jackson.
Okay, so what else can we do if it's not Benjamin? Cameron Meredith has actually the best thing that happened for Meredith is that Jay Cutler got injured.
Okay. Because
Matt Barkley is going to actually use him more than Cutler would have.
FF Today has Meredith ranked 29th. I think he's a rock solid play. I'm all for Meredith.
I think that's the play there, especially with Alshon Jeffries out.
Yeah, I like that play. Of course, you are sort of hedging your bets here. You're betting on Meredith to perform against the defense that you're using. That's possible, though. I mean, it's not a killer, a ticket killer.
No, but the double play with Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson, every time the Crowder gets a catch, I'm going to get upset. So I can understand why I want to have this play. So let me assign this lineup, set it up. We close out of this. And then let's go through finally the last ticket that you and we've been talking about each of these players along the way. Russell Wilson, again, you said that he's going to have a field day against an injury-riddled Packer defense. Secondly, we talked about Jeremy Hill. Because he doesn't have anybody else to have the ball, he's going to get more touches. He's a great value play at where he is. Then you have Lamar Miller, who the last time that they played against Indianapolis had over 35 points. And the Beckham play that you think is going to be a good play anyway against a Dallas secondary and linebackers that are probably not at their best this week. and definitely will be taken advantage of by that wide receiving core. The question is, will it be Beckham or somebody else?
Right.
This ticket, I decided to go with Jamison Crowder. Let Jamison be the guy who gets the ball instead of Deshaun Jackson or Garcon. Jordan Matthews coming back. He's getting the catches. Why not let, he's automatically getting about 8 to 10 catches. That's 8 to 10 points a week. Then it's yardage. It's, okay, nice fill play at $5,400, very solid. Jordan Reed, we know what we have there. And Darren Sproles. I'm thinking about this game. Darren Sproles is healthy. He could have a 20-plus point game.
Okay. I just want to check real quickly where Sproles lands on the FF Today projections, and he's not leaping out at me. 30th on the FF Today projections at running back. Now that, these are just projections, and you're telling yourself a story according to which he makes sense. And so I'm not trying to quibble over the likelihood of that story developing. You can just disagree with FF Today. It's just that 30th is a bit.
So do you believe that a Rob Kelly is a better play than a Darren Sproles?
I do, and FF Today does as well. Rob Kelly is ranked 17th as opposed to 30th for Sproles.
Okay, so then that's the play right there, because Tim Hightower is not the play.
I don't think so.
I believe Kelly will actually be. Right now, I've got a triple threat between Reed, Kelly, and Crowder on this ticket now.
Oh, that's interesting. But see, so here's the thing. That's a triple play that I can believe in happening more so than, say, 3 wideouts from Washington.
Right.
There you're distributing it over 3 different positions. Yeah, could they dominate in all 3 areas? I absolutely believe they could.
Well, let's play this ticket, and we'll come back to it next week and see how it is.
Okay, fantastic. We have gone – wow, it's great to have you back, Matthew. Our shows have been so brief in your absence. They've been down to 15 minutes. This time we've gone 10 minutes over. So I'm going to wrap us up, but we are going to keep – I hope you'll stay on and help me play with that ticket where I want to swap in Jeremy Hill.
I will. We have time after the show closes up.
Okay, but for now, this is Mike Davis signing off for both Matthew Schiff and Next Man Up. We hope to see you guys next Saturday when we'll have more featured players and report on how we did this week. Thanks, guys. Bye.